From one Kentucky hero to another this morning on the show, the House is set to vote on the COVID-19 relief bill, or as Democrats are now calling it, the American Rescue Plan. They'll do that on Friday. Plus, the right to work is in focus as Democrats push to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Here to talk about all of this, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul with us on Wake Up America. Senator, nice to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Senator, it's our pleasure. I'd like to talk about this American Rescue Plan. It's not COVID relief anymore. The Democrats are making that very clear. $2 trillion, less than 2% goes towards vaccinating Americans. Less than 10% actually goes toward COVID relief. How does this help the American people? And then I was just thinking about this. Have you actually had a chance to read this bill or look at this bill yet?
Oh, no, they never let us read the bills up here. They give us 1,000-page bills about an hour or two before we're supposed to vote on it.
Right.
But somebody's seen the bill, and one of my staff members this morning sent me a clip saying that on page 305, there's a special bailout for bureaucrats. And so there's going to be 30 weeks of family paid leave if your kid's not in school because the union won't teach your kids. You're allowed to take 30 weeks of paid vacation up to age 21. So here's the thing, you could have a 21-year-old college kid and you're a federal employee, you could take 30 weeks off of paid vacation. That's stuck in the bill. But the bottom line is even the main premise of the bill is wrong. It's $2 trillion we don't have, has to be borrowed, has to be printed. It'll devalue the existing currency. The dollar will get weaker, and ultimately our country will get weaker. We borrowed $4 trillion last year. We're going to borrow another $2 to $3 trillion this year. I don't think this is going to end in a good way, and it creates an artificial stimulus. Stock market's going crazy with all this new money. But there also is going to be a correction. The stock market eventually will discover, like they always do, the emperor has no clothes and this money was printed, and then there'll be a crashing bust as well.
Well, yeah, you bring up a good point. There's only $1,400 for people making under 75 grand in the bill. That's not going to do much when it comes to mortgage or rent payments. So again, the American people are forgotten. There are also calls, as we know, to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. That would put a lot of people, millions of people out of work. I know that Kentucky's a right-to-work state. I know you're working on a bill to make this more uniform. 28 states are right-to-work states. And I know, having worked in one, that big companies want to be in right-to-work states. So what would you like to see happen here?
Yeah, Kentucky recently became a right-to-work state in the last couple of years, and we've been attracting business. For years, South Carolina was, Alabama was. They got big car manufacturers. South attracted Boeing out of Washington because, frankly, the union had gotten the wages so high that they weren't competitive worldwide. So if the whole country were to become right to work, we'd become a haven. It'd be places where businesses around the world would want to come. Right now, the states like Kentucky that are right to work are attracting businesses from non-right to work states, but I'd like to make the whole country right to work. The interesting thing about the bill is it doesn't add any new law. It just takes away parts of a 1930s law that said that if a union was there, they could fire people, and the union could demand that people be fired who didn't want to be in the union. All it does is take away that mandatory firing and let people decide voluntarily whether they want to be in a union. And I'm not against collective bargaining. I think there are times when you can get better wages and better prices, frankly. I'm for consumers coming together to bargain collectively to get cheaper insurance, health insurance. So I'm not against this idea of working together to get better wages or better prices, but I am against mandating it.
Senator, the Chinese right now are literally committing genocide right now to the Uyghur Muslims in these internment camps that we're just starting to hear more about. The Biden administration has made absolutely no effort 36 days in to hold the CCP accountable for the coronavirus. And now we are getting closer to the Beijing Olympics in 2022. Why hasn't Joe Biden boycotted these Olympics yet?
Well, I think the questions are going to persist whether or not his son's financial ties are influencing him. It's hard to prove, but they are investigating. You know, there is an U.S. attorney in Delaware investigating the son. And to Biden's credit, he didn't fire that U.S. attorney yet. So will we get to the truth? Maybe. But the son has had a lot of business dealings, including flying with his father when his father was vice president. And Biden didn't seem to be concerned enough about the impropriety of having his son on Air Force Two going to China to negotiate business deals. And I think Hunter Biden's a big liability, and there will remain questions until we know the full extent of Hunter Biden's Chinese dealings and whether or not it could be indirectly or directly influencing his father.
Yeah, but on the coronavirus, and I know you've pushed for this, but 500,000 Americans have lost their lives. The number goes up every single day. Everybody's been affected by this. I know you have as well personally. At some point, is somebody going to hold China accountable and get to the bottom of how this happened, where this came from, just so we make sure it doesn't ever happen again?
I think the only way you do that is by withholding money. So I was with President Trump on withholding money to the WHO. The WHO has a guy who's very friendly to the Chinese communists. He's not even a physician or a scientist. And so he doesn't bring a lot to the table anyway. But no, I think there has been a cover up, and I think a full investigation is warranted, and it should be one that we oversee and are a big part of, and we should be satisfied with it before we get back into the WHO. Unfortunately, Biden's done the opposite. One of the first things he did by executive order was start paying our dues to the WHO. And like every other international organization, we pay the bulk of the dues. We're always Uncle Sam or Uncle Sap, according to the world.
Right, and you can't trust them. It's interesting to see Democrats, particularly some of the left-leaning media, the New York Times, starting to turn on Andrew Cuomo. He's in a whole lot of trouble in the state of New York. They're also starting to turn on Dr. Fauci, who, Senator, he has never turned down an interview opportunity or a chance to be on TV, especially on a Sunday. Is it time for Dr. Fauci to go away for a little while?
For a long while. I think he needs to retire. Here's the thing with Dr. Fauci. He pretends to follow the science, but he doesn't. He lies to the people because he thinks he knows better. So he's lied multiple times on masks and herd immunity. And then he admits he lies, but he says, well, he's doing it for the betterment of the people because we're not smart enough to understand.
Right.
So his lies on the mask were because the N95 mask actually does work if used properly, particularly in a hospital setting. The cloth masks don't work and the regular surgical masks don't work. So 95% of the people wearing masks, it's all theater and doesn't work at all. The N95s work. But he won't tell you the truth because he says, if you knew the truth, you'd buy all the N95 masks and we'd have a shortage in the hospitals. And I think there are other ways to go about that besides lying to the people. On schools, I've been advocating for probably 9 months now to open the schools. There's never been evidence of surges in schools. And he resisted until he finally came around. I said in March of last year, at the very beginning of this, that I thought high-dose steroids might be the answer. He responded by saying, oh, no, we've studied that and they don't work. What's the number one treatment in the intensive care unit now? High-dose steroids. So I think even when you look at the science, he's been largely wrong on most of the issues of the day. And he's also just an elitist in the sense that he knows what's best for you.
Exactly.
So he's telling you already we should wear masks into 2022, even after you've been vaccinated. And I'm the opposite. If you've had this disease and you've had both your vaccinations and you're a couple weeks out, celebrate, toss your mask aside, go to a restaurant, start living your life again.
Get out there and enjoy yourself. Just the misinformation has confused millions of Americans. It's gone on for a year now, which is long enough. He's not a political scientist. He's not an economist. He's almost single-handedly bankrupted the economy because back in the beginning, what this guy says, we all do. Like he's infallible. And now the wheels are finally starting to come off the wagon. I did want to ask you, two of your colleagues in the House, not in the Senate, they apparently have not read our Constitution, particularly that First Amendment, which, by the way, Dr. Fauci can say whatever he wants because we live in America and we all have the First Amendment to back us up. But they sent a letter to all the major cable outlets out there and all the major streaming services demanding that Newsmax and many others be canceled altogether. So I wanted to get your thoughts on cancel culture. Senator, if I see something on TV that I don't like, you know what I do? I change the channel. I don't ask for everyone that works at that channel to lose their jobs.
Well, the interesting thing about this is there used to be liberals that actually were liberal, meaning that they defended the First Amendment. And some conservatives like myself were sort of libertarian, and we kind of agreed. We came together right and left on speech, that we would protect speech and that we were, hardcore defenders of speech. Now the liberals are acting like authoritarians. They claim Trump was an authoritarian. They're talking about having speech police, and they're the police, basically. They get to decide they don't like Newsmax and they want Newsmax off the air. That is ridiculous. It's incredibly authoritarian. It's incredibly regressive. It's really something that's hard to imagine as even being given any credence of discussion. Yeah. But it's scary because it's infiltrated the mass majority of the Democrat Party.
It is, and it's as you said, it's un-American. Senator Rand Paul, thanks so much for coming on with us this morning. A pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you.